The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov. Up ahead on this edition of Live and Learn, Kristen Stowe talks with Dr. David Dykes about digestive issues facing seniors. Linda Paul Drake and Aging Partners Peggy Apthorpe discusses the Stepping On program. Also, Dolores Lintel looks at the art of stained glass with Rodney Scott. And Jim Padavina and Janet Anderberry recruit Harlan Johnson as a Cornhead Republic member. All that and more on this edition of Live and Learn.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Kristen Stowe, and I'm going to be talking about the marvel of the digestive process today with retired gastroenterologist Dr. David Dyke, who practiced in Lincoln for 37 years. Welcome, Dr. Dyke.
Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Wouldn't you agree that the human body is truly an amazing machine?
I think that's something that all medical students quickly realize, and I remember I wished other people could appreciate this as well. Mm-hmm. It's too bad we can't all have that education.
That is so true. As a gastroenterologist, you deal with treatments and diagnoses of many disorders which affect the organs of the body that I believe we will be showing on screen. What medical training does this entail?
Well, gastroenterologists are internal medicine specialists first, and then we take 2 or 3 more years in gastrointestinal disease.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's a total of almost 10 years post-college training, is that not true?
Well, it's about 13 actually.
Okay, all right, there you go.
Add a couple more years for the service, so I was 15 years beyond high school.
Wow, wow. Although you are not a surgeon, you are medically trained to do a few invasive procedures, 3 of which we will talk about. First is the colonoscopy. What symptoms would a patient present with that would lead you to think they needed a colonoscopy?
Well, probably one of the most important would be anemia, or history of bleeding, or having blood in their stools that is chemically present. Okay. They may have had an x-ray, like a CAT scan or something, that suggested something wrong with the colon, mm-hmm. and so the workup takes a new direction, and we investigate that endoscopically. We examine patients who have family histories for colon cancer, mm-hmm. and we also examine people with inflammatory bowel disease frequently because of their increased risk for cancer of the colon.
I see. Could you just very briefly explain the procedure?
Well, the most important thing I want to emphasize is the preparation, mm-hmm. because the better the patient is prepared, the better we have a chance to find any pathology. Sure. And everybody likes to gripe about the preparation, and it makes good cocktail stories and so on. But what I'd like to emphasize is that maybe going on a low residue diet the day before the preparation, and then clear liquids the whole day of the preparation.
I see.
And then we found that a split dose works best for the actual solution to clear the colon.
Sure.
So you take part in the evening and part the next morning.
Sure. Well, that is very important, yes. And then the patient is under anesthesia, so they're asleep, mm-hmm. for this procedure.
I think there are potential complications, mm-hmm. with colonoscopy, mm-hmm. perforation, and bleeding, and so on. Mm-hmm. And I think patients have to be aware of that, and so they do mm-hmm. sign a consent first.
Sure.
And then before we start the procedure, they do have an IV inserted and mm-hmm. a special oximeter put on the finger to monitor the blood oxygen levels and mm-hmm. blood pressure cuff and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's important, and I want to emphasize this too, is that all patients who are going to be sedated for endoscopy have to have a driver.
Oh, yes.
Because if you don't have a driver, we have to reschedule.
Certainly, yes, I can understand that. The second procedure we'll talk about is an endoscopy. Again, what symptoms would a patient have to make you suggest an endoscopy?
Well, we sometimes do the exam for patients who have known disease, like Barrett's esophagus, which is a pre-malignant condition. Okay. And so we endoscope those people and look for precancerous changes. We endoscope people with esophageal varices and try to control those if we can. Mm-hmm. Patients who have lost weight, who are nauseated, who can't swallow well, who have chronic heartburn, dyspepsia, mm-hmm. All these people should be monitored with endoscopy. And we also use the endoscopy to take biopsies. Oh, and as part of the procedure, of course, we control hemorrhage. Not a routine procedure, but we're called because the patient is bleeding, mm-hmm. Who has a stricture in their esophagus, who needs a special stent because of advanced malignancy involving the the esophagus. And we are also assist in placing feeding tubes deep in the small and top bowel, or even doing a percutaneous placement through the abdominal wall into the stomach. So for patients who have long-term feeding nutritional issues.
And does this test address a hiatal hernia? Is this?
We can usually diagnose what they call fixed hiatal hernias, ones that don't move up and down, but some are sliding. And our goal is not to find every hiatal hernia necessarily, because that is usually not a surgical problem, although we do see elderly women particularly with maybe half their stomach up in their chest, and you wish you would have known about that sooner and repaired it when they were a better surgical candidate.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. The third procedure is the ERC procedure, and I will let you explain that from here.
Okay. This is something that's been done since about 1968. It's a special examination of the bile duct and the pancreatic duct, and they have to use a different kind of scope, what they call a side viewing scope, and they cannulate the bile duct primarily, and look for stones or a leak, a perforation, a tumor, a stricture, these sort of things. We try to stay out of the pancreas as much as we can. It's a good friend but a terrible enemy, and we can trigger pancreatitis, which can require hospitalization that bad if we have some inadvertent problem with getting dye into the pancreas.
So what symptoms would a patient have that would need this kind of a test?
One of the most common things, and one of the more satisfying exams is if a surgeon has removed the gallbladder and they do a cholangiogram and they find some stones in the bile duct, and there is a picture on the screen right now that shows the relationship of the bile duct to the gallbladder and to the small intestine, and we are able to go up into there and demonstrate the stones, and then do a small electrocardiography cut and pull out these stones and save the patient an open operation that way.
Oh, well, that's fantastic.
And then obstructive jaundice is another thing we are commonly called to see a patient for, and this unfortunately often is tumor, and it's usually the pancreas rather than the bile duct, and we are able to put in stents and decompress the jaundice or relieve sepsis as well, and important in the management of these complicated patients. We can leave stents in place, special wire-coated stents that keep the bile duct from collapsing down and obstructing the patient again.
Wow. That's amazing. So if a patient is exhibiting certain symptoms and they're wondering whether they should call a gastroenterologist or not, what are some really red flag symptoms that they should be calling?
Well, in gastrointestinal clinical disease and care, we do see a lot of patients who have functional gastrointestinal symptoms. They're not making them up, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have disease. And if they've had their symptoms for years or so and it hasn't progressed, those are usually symptoms that they may have to kind of live with it. And it's part of the motility or a problem with the enteric nervous system of the gastrointestinal tract. But what we pay particular attention to is recent symptoms. New pain, weight loss, fever, blood in the stool perhaps. And we're on to something then, and we probably won't call off the dogs in terms of diagnostic studies until we have an answer, because
well, and certainly better to take care of these issues early rather than later.
Right.
It just gets more complicated down the line.
It won't go away.
Right, exactly. In addition to these procedures, I know that there are certainly other tests that can be ordered, that most of which require very little preparation time, and they're very easy to take, and yet can glean so much wonderful information for the patient. We'll just kind of briefly talk about each of these tests, the first one being the motility test.
Well, there's an overall test of motility that gives us some idea about transit time through the small intestine and colon, and that's called a Sitzmark study. And it's just a single capsule with 20 little radiopaque markers inside, which dissolve as soon as the patient swallows the capsule. And then we take a picture in 3 days, and there shouldn't be more than 8 or 10 of those little markers left. And then if we take a final picture in 5 days, and there should be less than 5 markers left. And sometimes those markers are scattered throughout the bowel, and that's the worst finding. Sometimes the markers are more down toward the sigmoid colon or rectum, and that may be just a problem related to defecation disorder.
I see. So that.
So then to go on with our other motility studies, we look at the esophagus, and there's a volunteer part of swallowing and an involuntary part. The voluntary part is the tongue and the pharynx, and then once the bolus gets beyond there, then it's kind of on automatic control, I guess. But we're looking for disorders of what they call the cricopharyngeus, the upper esophageal sphincter, motility problems within the body of the esophagus, and then poor relaxation or dysfunction of the lower esophageal sphincter as well. And then treatment is according to what we find there. We also have, in recent years, been working more with some anal rectal motility disorders too, particularly in young females who have problems expelling stool, and we look for dysfunction of the sphincter muscles or another muscle in the pelvis called the pruborectalis muscle. And the good thing about this is that if we find abnormalities, that with biofeedback provided by the physical therapists in town, 70 to 80% of these patients can be permanently improved.
Well, that is wonderful, particularly for a younger patient.
Sure.
To have something like that taken care of early in life. Another test is the hydrogen breath test, which is truly easy. You drink a small amount of liquid and then collect your breath in little tubes. And that should not be feared at all. Why would someone take that test?
Well, the theory behind the test is that if there are undigested small carbohydrate molecules, disaccharides and monosaccharides, if you don't digest and absorb them, the bacteria will do the job for you. And part of the problem or what happens with metabolism is that hydrogen is produced, which is absorbed through the mucosa and expelled in the breath. And so we do baseline hydrogen breath analysis, and then at 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes, 240 minutes, and look for a 20 parts per million increase of the hydrogen to have a positive test.
And this could actually show a fructose intolerance, which we have a picture of not all of the foods, but some foods that do contain high fructose corn syrup, and that's kind of a buzzword right now.
Yes, fructose is the artificial sweetener of these days. There's some controversy in the literature that maybe they give unphysiologic amounts of fructose for the test that would give anybody symptoms and gas, but it's still a non-invasive way to find out if
if you can find out you are intolerant of that and get it out of your diet, you feel much better.
It works even better for lactose intolerance. And then we do breath tests for bacterial overgrowth as well. Normally the small bowel is supposed to be fairly sterile for maximum efficiency and digestion and absorption of food, and there are lots of pathologic conditions where there can be too much bacteria in the small bowel, and so we use the breath test for that as well.
Blood tests could also be ordered, and they can show different things, 3 of which would be intolerances, allergies, and autoimmune diseases. Can you just give a one-word description of an intolerance?
Well, sometimes this is an individual subjective thing. And we have patients up here in the office with long lists of things they can't tolerate very well. And it may be true. It's hard to evaluate. And often we consult a very experienced, savvy dietitian to work through these. And it's elimination diets and then reinstituting some of these foods back into the diet. In terms of autoimmune, autoimmune probably doesn't affect the GI tract that much. We may talk about non-tropical sprue, but that is a true kind of a reaction, allergy to a certain substance. But lupus can affect the liver, and scleroderma, another condition, can affect the motility of the gut. And amyloidosis, which isn't a true autoimmune disease, but that can affect the gut as well, the blood vessels as well as the mucosa.
We don't have a lot of time to talk about celiac sprue in grand terms, but one point of good news is that if the gluten is gotten out of your diet, the intestines really can repair themselves in time. Is this true?
They do heal.
Yes, yes.
And I think we're underdiagnosed sprue or celiac disease. The incidence in the population is supposed to be around 1 to 100, which is quite a number actually.
Yes.
And if you have GI symptoms, maybe it's 1 to 56. And if you have a first-degree relative, it's 1 to 20.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
we look pretty carefully at our irritable bowel patients for non-tropical
And this
sprue.
can be diagnosed in an older patient, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, most
Yes.
can over age
Yes,
60.
absolutely. Could I just get your very quick responses to these statements? Taking a daily baby aspirin for colon cancer prevention.
The literature might not support aspirin so much anymore,
Okay.
but what it does talk about is non-steroidal anti-inflammatory agents like ibuprofen or naproxen or something like that. There are side effects with these medications sometimes, so you have to make sure that it's safe for one to take, but they have shown that there is a decreased incidence of neoplasia of the bowel with these agents. I might put a plug in for vitamin D as well. But things come and go, and one time that they were advocating folic acid, and now that's fallen into disfavor.
My goodness. Okay, just one quick word about Activia to improve regularity.
Okay, we're talking about probiotics now, and probably we use them most often to try to prevent an antibiotic-related colitis or diarrhea,
Okay.
because the antibiotic removes a lot of the normal intestinal flora of bacteria, and we're trying to replace that so that there isn't a complicating pseudomembranous colitis, which can take weeks sometimes to cure.
My goodness, my goodness. Is the Serocult test a good, accurate test for screening for blood in the stool? That's an at-home test.
Well, it has to be done correctly.
Yes.
And the patient has to avoid vitamins, particularly vitamin C, which can give you a false
okay.
negative.
Oh, that's
It has to be collected correctly without red meat in the diet for a
okay.
few days ahead of time.
Okay.
And they can't be taking medicines that might ulcerate the GI tract, which could cause bleeding too. So that's important. And then the collection of the stool, because we don't care if the patient has hemorrhoids, but the surface of the stool may contain blood that you can't see. And so the stool has to be
But
sampled
done
more.
correctly, this is a good test.
Yes, as a screen, and
As a
probably
screen.
in younger people. But if they've already had colonoscopies, let's say a year before, and you do the test the next year,
Then that's
and
not-
then what do you do with that test? Do you colonoscope the patient again?
No,
And so it's an issue. It may be not as important now with our current screening techniques as it once was.
Okay. Dr. Dyke, we have only begun to scratch the surface, truly, of everything that a gastroenterologist can help a patient with. And I guess my final word would be that I hope our viewers would never put off calling a gastroenterologist, because there's so much that you can do to help them feel better, which is what it's all about, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Thank you for being with us today. And we would like to thank all of you for being with us on Live and Learn.
What does Medicare cover? How can I afford to keep living in my home? When I need help with house and yard work, who can I turn to? Why am I so tired? Am I eating right? Should I exercise? Where can I go for answers to my questions about aging?
Aging Partners is the place to call when you have questions on aging. Our experts are here to help you with unbiased answers for you or your loved ones. Aging Partners, we're only a phone call away.
Did you ever remember the old song, I bet you do? Ring around the rosy, a pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. We used to fall down when we were kids, but now we fall down. People age 65 and older, 1/3 of us are going to fall down, and it ain't so much fun these days. So there's a fascinating program that's going to be starting, calling the Stepping On program here at Aging Partners. And Peggy Apthorpe is the fitness coordinator, and she's going to tell us about this, and you can get involved. Because I hate to think, so many of older adults are winding up in the emergency room every 15 seconds. I'm Lita Powell-Drake. This is Peggy Apthorpe, and we're going to talk about this Stepping On program. Tell us about it, Peggy.
Okay, thanks to a grant from the Community Health Endowment, we are going to be able to implement a program called Stepping On building confidence and reducing falls. This is an evidence-based program that was developed in Australia.
What do you mean evidence-based?
It means that research has shown that people who participate in this program reduce their falls by 31%.
Splendid.
Yes, it's been researched and that's been shown, so we're really excited about this opportunity. And it is a 7-week program that covers various aspects of things that would be a risk for falling, like vision, exercise. We'll have guest physical therapists there who will teach people simple exercises they can do on their own to reduce the risk of falls. We'll talk about medications because, as you know, that's a very important aspect of fall prevention. And again, physical activity, footwear. Just generally during that 7-week period, there'll be a lot of interaction with people of your own age, actually, and then we will be having a lot of guest experts come in and give us information about what we can do.
Okay, so listen up, folks, because you can participate in this. It's going to start in May, and we're going to give you the details. But I think you want to think, we're afraid of falling, but there are things that we can do so that we can help prevent them, and that's what we're going to address today. Now, we've known this all the time, but we got to exercise.
Yes.
We have to exercise every day.
Exercise is probably one of the best things that you can do to maintain your health as you grow older. And as it relates to falls, it helps to build strength, improve coordination and balance. And so it's very important in terms of reducing your risk of falling. And Aging Partners has a very nice exercise center at 233 South 10th.
That's the old police department.
Yeah,
the old police department downtown. Now they've got all the stuff in there. If you don't want to go outside and walk.
Yes, and we have...
you got to lift the weights.
We have weightlifting and we have Tai Chi and yoga actually there as well.
Now, is there a charge for this?
It's a suggested donation of $10 per month if you're over the age of 60, yes. And $15 per month fee if you're under the age of 60. And we welcome people of all ages.
Okay, so we got to walk, and I know when you go outside, and especially during the winter, it's slippery.
Yes.
So, we're aware of all those things, but the stronger you get, the
less
what did
likely
they say?
you
The
are to
harder
fall.
they fall, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to exercise. Okay, now here are some other tips that, just think about them for a second. When you're getting out of the chair.
It's very important to take your time. When you're getting out of a chair or getting out of bed, take your time, make sure that you have your balance before you begin walking, and kind of be aware of your surroundings. I think especially if you get up in the middle of the night, you might not know where you are, and it would be very easy for you to fall in that kind of a situation. So it's important to take your time and really just walking in general. I know all of us are always in such a hurry, and I'm probably more guilty than anyone of being that way, but it's very important that you get up, make sure you have your balance, and take your time as you're walking.
And here's another thing. We got stuff, we got clutter. Look at your living room right now. And have you got some magazines or books or stuff on the floor, rugs? Just look around right now. Clear that clutter.
Absolutely. Clutter, of course, it makes it much more likely that you would fall. It could be a cord, it could be, like you said, magazines, books, shoes, clothes. Also, I think pets and small children. We need to be conscious of that because they sometimes get in the way too.
In more ways than one. Okay, look out for yourself, especially in the bathroom. And you got cords, and you've got to plug them in, and so forth. And then we don't see as well as we used to see.
Yeah, it's very important to have your annual vision check and make sure that your vision is okay. And also that would include lighting. Make sure that you have good lighting, have night lights at night, possibly in the bathroom or between the bathroom and the bedroom. And when you're going up and down stairs, whether they're inside or outside, lighting is very important.
I just have to tell you a little story that was just devastating. A dear friend of mine who was elderly went to New York City, and he was in a hotel room. And of course, then you're unfamiliar with the bathroom and so forth. And He did what I think many of us have done, and I've done. Sometimes if you wake up during the middle of the night, you don't want to turn on the light because you don't want to awaken yourself. You just have to go to the bathroom, that's all. So what he did was, he went into the bathroom, he hadn't turned on the light, probably for the same reason, he didn't want to wake himself up. And he was a heavy-set man, and he sat down on what he thought was the toilet. And it was the edge of the bathtub. And he went back and cracked his head, and his decline began from then. So it's those the little things.
That's
like
right.
Turn on the lights to make certain you can see what you're doing.
Exactly.
That was so devastating.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, and of course, you spill your Diet Coke, you spill a little water, and what do you have to do right away?
Wipe it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any kind of liquid, whether it's in the bathroom or the kitchen or wherever you might spill, liquids contribute to falls, obviously. And that would include ice, I think, in Nebraska. Ice is a solid, I know, but it easily turns to liquid, and anything like that would make it much more apt to fall.
Okay,
so
now
we do have
this is really. I'm sorry, I didn't know that this existed. I thought when in the bathtub, as you get older, that you had to have those grab bars installed, and I thought how expensive that's going to be and so forth. But this is portable.
This is a real nice. Yes, you could even take it with you if you moved. You're correct, and it just fits on the bathtub. These can be purchased at hardware stores. This particular one was provided by Jim's Home Health, but a lot of the hardware stores or the larger department stores sell these as well.
So you actually just put it on the side of the tub, the edge of the tub, and you just screw it in. You just screw it in, so you don't need to break through the wall. I had no idea that these existed,
well,
and it's heavy. It's really heavy.
I think they're very reliable.
Another thing we have to think about is once you're in the bathtub or in the shower,
yes,
a rubber mat.
Rubberized mat.
These things seem practical and simple enough, but some people don't have them. So that's why we're doing this.
Yes, and these, you wet this and before you put it into the tub, and then it will stick on the bottom, but they really help a lot and would really reduce the risk of falling in the bath or shower.
Oh, yeah, and they're cheap, cheap. So they do get a little icky after a while.
Yeah,
so
you have to watch that.
Since they're cheap, buy a couple of them, put them there, and when it starts to look a little greenish, yellowish, and say, oh, that's time to not to recycle this. No, I don't think we'll recycle that. Okay, all right. So and another thing we have to do is to walk very carefully, especially using handrails.
Up and down the stairs.
Yeah, up and down the stairs. And also, let's talk about rugs a little
bit. The throw
rug,
yeah.
Okay, the throw rug. Don't let your throw rug throw you.
Or any kind of uneven surface. But throw rugs can really, in particular, be a risk for falling. So make sure you get the slip-resistant bottom or the rubberized bottom if you're using a throw rug. I think you also need to be careful that your carpet isn't wrinkled or other uneven surfaces outside on the sidewalks. But always watch for
and get one of the rugs that doesn't have that really thick shag.
Yes,
because you could. Okay, now this isn't perfect. There's a downside on this. After a while, I'm telling you this from personal experience. The glue that's in the back of this, if you've got it on a surface like in my kitchen, it will begin to deteriorate. The glue comes off. It has stained, actually, the tile. Stained the tile. So now I have to have a rug because I've got to cover up the stain.
Yeah, it's kind of a choice you have to make. And I imagine, too, you need to make sure that they aren't worn out and the rubber isn't all back.
So you really have to replace these, but they're, period, more often than you think. But don't get the thick shag. And now, another question I have is when you're going to wash this in the washing machine, how long is that glue going to last?
I wish I knew the answer to that, but I don't.
but I think it's worthwhile to mention.
We could probably find out.
I'm just thinking when you take it out of the dryer, and remember that heat is interacting with this glue in here. You might want to check after you've washed it, or air dry would be even better. But just to check to make sure it still has the
Yes.
stick-to-itiveness.
I think that's right.
That's, well, we're being so
as well
practical
with
today.
the bath mat and the rug, you could check periodically.
Yeah, so practical today. Okay, now, if you're coming down the steps,
Yes.
oh, please.
You know, going up and downstairs, it's not dangerous, but you really need to be careful because you can fall up the stairs as well. So it's important to have the stairwells well lit and also to have handrails on both sides if at all possible.
I think that's critical.
Yes.
So that you, first of all, it's going to give you some balance.
Yeah. And use the handrails. But and if you're carrying something, for sure, you know, be sure you hold on to one of the handrails.
Yeah, I remember when I moved into my house, there were no handrails at all. There were no rails at all going upstairs. And, you know, you're young, you don't even pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
My sister had fallen off a roof and broken everything. And so I had them installed for her. Now I'm using them.
Yeah, and I think they're a standard part of new homes now. They need to be
Oh,
installed,
good.
I believe. Yeah.
That's very good. Okay, one last thing that we're going to address here really quickly is the importance of the right kind of footwear.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
You want to wear low-heeled shoes with engraved or embossed bottom, and I think we may have an example of safe footwear that will be up on the screen here pretty soon. But and that they fit well, and we have an example here of a cleat that you could buy. You can buy these again at any hardware store that will give you more traction in the ice and snow. And these are just Velcro little items that fit right over the shoes. So it's important to make sure that your shoes fit well, and you don't have the shoestrings. A lot of people are using Velcro, I think, for shoes as well, but the shoestrings that you can trip over.
Exactly, because I couldn't figure out why the shoelaces are so long. I hate it.
Yeah.
Because they're coming apart, and I wind up
And you might trip
stepping
on
on
that,
and it
yeah.
could trip. And I say, why? What happened? I don't remember shoelaces being that long.
Yeah, I'm not quite
and
sure.
Someone said to me that it's cheaper if they make them all the same size. So therefore they
Yeah.
don't have to cut the various size. But things you can't cut this off because then you wreck the end.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is you got to make sure that these are all neatly tied up, but and
And
get
then
a
they have
really
the-
good traction on the back.
Yeah.
And don't buy one just because it's cheap. Make certain that you've got
Yes.
some traction back here, and then if you want to climb Mount Everest, you can put these things on.
Those are good in the snow and ice as well.
Yeah, that's very good. Okay, tell us quickly about the workshop that's coming up in May, and it's free.
Yes,
It's free.
Because of the grant from Community Health Endowment, we're able to offer this at no cost to participants. And we have 2 workshops planned in May. One will be starting at Van Dorn Villa, and the other one will be at the Lincoln Medical Education Foundation. And if people are interested in these workshops, please call me at 402-441-7796 or the main line for health and fitness, 402-441-7575.
And just to give you an idea of your investment of time, it would only be 2 hours a week.
For 7
For
weeks.
7 weeks, and there will be 8 locations. So there should be someplace
Yes.
near you. Now it's
By the
free.
end of this year, we'll have 8 for sure.
And
yes.
so, who are you hoping that's going to participate in
well,
this?
the classes are designed for people who are living independently, either in their own home or an apartment, and 60 and over, and maybe they have a fear of falling, or they are at risk of falling, or they have fallen. It's designed for anyone who has a concern about falling and wants to reduce their risk.
So if you don't want to fall apart, this is your time to learn more about it, and you can help others and advise some of your friends. Peggy Apthorpe, thank you so
thank you
much.
very
This is what a
much.
wonderful program.
thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Live and Learn will be right back right after this word.
What does Medicare cover? How can I afford to keep living in my home? When I need help with house and yard work, who can I turn to? Why am I so tired? Am I eating right? Should I exercise? Where can I go for answers to my questions about aging?
Aging Partners is the place to call when you have questions on aging. Our experts are here to help you with unbiased answers for you or your loved ones. Aging Partners, we're only a phone call away.
Welcome back to Live and Learn. I'm Dolores Lentell, one of the hosts. Sometimes we find people who have interesting hobbies, and today we're pleased to have Rod Scott, who is the owner of Architectural Glass Arts, and he will demonstrate today the skill and art of making stained glass products and what's all involved in doing that. So welcome. I'm so pleased to have you here.
Glad to be here.
This should be an interesting program for our seniors because I understand it's a nice hobby for them to get into.
Yeah, it's something anyone can do. There's different levels of whether you're doing a copper foil type product like this, which is what I'm going to cut out today, or putting something together with lead, which is this product. And with that, you have this lead product placed between, and at every joint there you would solder that joint. And that's the only thing that's done at that level.
Okay, so you start out with a pattern or
Yep.
design that you want to accomplish.
Yes,
It's
sir.
not just freelance.
No, it's best to have a pattern, have an idea where you're going.
Okay,
And then you just simply cut the lines here like this. Take these little handy tools, and these cutters were developed actually for people that are more mature.
okay.
So it gives you a pistol grip. They used to be
Okay.
just a little pencil device, but now with the pistol grip, it's easier for people to get a hold of. And you just go ahead and cut on the lines, and have these different tools for breaking the little pieces off. And
So there are different techniques that they need to master then to do this? Or?
yeah, you got to learn the right amount of pressure to take. See, a lot of times I've done it so long I don't really use that many tools.
Okay,
But we teach everybody the proper use of the tools so that whatever works best with them. Some people can need to use all the tools that we have, whereas I can just, a lot of times will just grab it with my hands and just break it, but, you know, once you've scored the line.
okay,
But here, these are very handy, very easy to use. It takes very little pressure. Just take there and just pop it right there like that.
okay.
And
So then you begin the assembly after you've cut them out? Or?
Yep. You
Okay.
have to cut all these pieces out. Today I'm going to just quick do a little piece here to show you the copper foil method.
Okay,
And that way I can show you how it is all put together.
okay,
Because there's copper foil, which Tiffany did a lot of, mainly was copper foil.
okay. So the Tiffany lamps that we
Yeah, they're all
we
copper
see.
foil together.
Okay,
And whenever you cut, you got to start from one end and go all the way to the other. You can't just go partially
okay.
across and do it.
So that's a skill they learn too when they.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In the beginning class, we teach all the different methods of cutting. And I didn't bring my power tools with me today. But if things are too small, you have to just recut them. But if you end up having them just be a little bit too big, then we have a grinding tool that will take and grind off every little piece. It's like sometimes they
Okay.
flare out like that.
Okay, to make it fit into the exact corner or something, you need to
Yep, you would
do that. Okay,
have that piece in there like that.
okay.
And now it flares over here a little bit. Before they had grinders, you just basically take this and just grind it away,
Okay,
and then fit that right in there like that. And this piece would, these are just a few. I'll get a few pieces going here so I can show the whole
sure.
idea.
Yeah, yeah. We want to learn the different. Understand there's a copper foil.
Yep, this is
That's what you're using now.
Yep, that's real copper, and it's just
Okay.
paper thin. That's why when you cut to the
Okay.
pattern here, you want to cut right on the line because there's not that much that goes in between.
Okay.
Lead, you have, maybe a 1/16 of an inch between.
Okay.
1/16 to, you can have up to an 1/8 if you want. And in the copper foiling method, you just take and wrap
It
this
appears to be adhesive on
Yep.
one side.
Yep,
Okay.
that's-
All right.
I'm not sure if Tiffany had that with him or not, but ours,
Okay.
all are self sticking, and you just press that on there,
All right.
get that all wrapped all the way around each piece. Make a mess here. Every piece has got to be completely wrapped so that you can have something to solder to.
Okay. Okay. So then the trick comes after you get those all wrapped. Then you apply heat to,
Yep.
and that softens the copper. How?
Well, no, the copper stays solid.
Okay.
With this device here, my soldering iron, which I'll get fired up here,
Okay.
it will not heat up enough to do any damage to the copper itself.
Okay.
This is only to heat up the solder. We'll get that going.
Okay.
But there's a lot of, along with the copper foil, this is a beginning project, just to get you taught on and used to using the tools and cutting the glass.
Okay. So when they come into a class, they don't need to have a lot of skills. It's a rather basic
Yeah.
first class.
Yep.
They just learn what you're doing
Yeah,
now.
it's just basic class.
Okay.
And I tell people you just need patience and Band-Aids, and we have all the Band-Aids.
Okay. So you cut yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's understandable. You're working with
I've talked to people
raw
that
edge glass.
have done this for some years. One guy says, I've worked at it for 3 years, I haven't cut myself once yet. I go, well, must not be doing it right.
So why is this a good hobby for seniors?
Because you can do it to any degree. You don't have to, I mean, yeah, the lines are here, and you can be right on the lines, but I have a lot of designs in your copper foil. You can have more space between if you want a different effect.
Okay.
So you don't really have to, I mean, yeah, color within the lines, but, well, not everybody always colors within the lines. And you can really do whatever you like. It's just a layout here
Okay.
of what you should be doing. But there's a lot of options. And if people have trouble with cutting glass that accurate, you can do copper foil. I mean, the other than the copper foil, gives you room for air, but if you wanted to do a project like fused glass, you could do something like the bird there, where there's a lot of room in between, and it doesn't really matter how much there is, because when you cook it all together, it will all just form together, one piece, and doesn't have to have the exact lines. Here I am just burnishing the edges so that it is sealed down to the glass.
Okay. And so there's no air in between that would...
Well, you just want this sealed down so that it sticks to the glass real well. But once
Okay.
you've got that,
Okay.
you've got to have a little flux here,
Okay.
which is really a
And-
messy
and
product.
Flux is just...
If it's a product that allows solder to flow onto the copper foil. I'll show you a little piece
Okay.
here.
Okay. So it's this, they have to buy the flux.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
Okay.
We have it all. Now I didn't flux this one little end here because I'll show you what happens if you try and solder without.
Okay.
Say this is just kind of, normally you would do all your pieces at first and then grind things, but you can set it up here.
Well, yeah.
And normally you're standing too, so you get a better view than just sitting here
Okay.
like this.
Okay. So does it take a particularly steady hand, or is that something that they
No,
need to
not
be
really.
concerned?
Because there's, I mean, if you're a little off on your cutting, we have grinders that you can also
Okay.
grind it down. If if you came off one edge too wrong, you can grind it down.
Okay.
See, now here there was flux on there, and that allows that solder to just flow along like
you
that.
kind of lead it.
Yeah, you
lead
can just
it,
flow it
okay.
right along. That'd be real easy. Now here,
Okay.
there is no flux. And see, it won't
Oh,
go
it beads up.
Yeah, it won't go anywhere. So that's why
That's
it's amazing what this product will do for
Okay.
you. But you have that
Okay.
on there,
All right.
and
And it just helps them move
there,
it.
here now that you have
Whatever
that,
it does to the metal.
it allows it
Okay.
to adhere to it.
Okay. So is there any particular thing that a person should consider before they would be involved in doing this? Is there anything that would prohibit somebody who just thinks this would be fun to do?
Well, the deal with working with glass is if you don't have a place at home to do it, you can do it at our place too. But if you do it at home, you want it in an area that you don't have a lot of traffic.
Okay.
Like in a shop or a garage area,
Okay.
because the little glass pieces go everywhere. You cut
Okay.
them, you're cutting and grinding, things kind of just have a tendency to go everywhere, and you want a nice area out of the way where you wouldn't be into your, normal
Okay.
house conditions. So, but
But somebody who has a workshop or a fellow has a lot of other hobbies, that he has an area, a work table or something, he could accomplish that.
oh
at
yeah,
home.
yeah. Any workshop area would be fine.
Okay.
Some people try and do this in their kitchen. I go, no, they don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of setup that shouldn't be disturbed.
Well, and you don't want I mean, you may think there's little glass pieces not going anywhere, but they go everywhere.
Oh, sure.
In fact, I take my shoes off and leave them in the work area because they can try.
Just little tiny pieces can
Yeah.
get into other things.
But
Okay.
I've not really had any problem in all the years I've had it.
Okay.
I've had a shop right next to I had one in my house right next to my kitchen and stuff, and it's out in the garage.
Yeah.
But so it's really not a problem. You just take precautions.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And that is real lead because there's not another product that works real well that you can use.
Okay.
But all you have to do is use common sense when handling it and wash your hands. And over 30 years of doing this, I've never had any. I get tested regular.
Oh, you're talking about the possibility of lead poisoning?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that hadn't occurred to me.
Yeah, well, that's only if you are, don't be licking this stuff and don't stir your coffee with it.
But you don't have to work with...
I use, during the shop, when I work with it all the time, I work with gloves.
Okay. And people who are particularly worried or sensitive might want to do that.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, I recommend that with everybody.
Okay.
If you're working full-time, a little simple demonstration here. I don't need the gloves for it because it takes a lot to be a problem. And in all the years I've done it, there's been no real problem.
Okay, all right.
But
So how did you get into doing this?
I was home one winter, Christmas, and my brother made a project, and I thought, well, if he can do that, I can do that. So,
And here you are.
Yes, yeah, I started.
But you had a background in design and...
Yeah, my parents, my mother did paintings, my father did some designing.
Okay.
And I've done a lot of painting before this, and a lot of artwork, and I just wanted some way to work with art to some degree to make a living, because it's more fun that way if you can do something you enjoy.
Right, absolutely.
And it's really easy for anybody to do because the fusing allows it to really melt your problems together. It'll help bring them together and stuff. So
They're showing some of your architectural design that you have installed in some of the churches around. So we'll have those on the screen from time to time so that people can see some of your professional work that you...
Most of our work is done with churches. We travel about a 500-mile radius.
Okay. And a lot of it is restoring or new installation? Or?
It's about half and half.
Okay.
Some years it's mainly restoring, and the other times we're
whatever comes around.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a new one that they've shown that was in February.
Okay.
And we talked back and forth, which is nice on the computer. We could just send designs back and forth, and we did about 30 different designs.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So that's the bulk of your occupation.
That allows us to teach class.
Okay. And have some fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
That pays for my fun.
Yeah. Well, and they make such nice gifts. You brought some here that we could describe. What's the difference between this and this?
Okay, this product here has been full fused. That's where you can heat the glass up to 480 degrees and completely fuse it into one piece. You cannot feel any of the other pieces of glass. Where here, it's a soft contour where you can actually feel the contour of the glass.
Okay.
And along with that one over there is another soft contour one. So there's different degrees of fusing you can do depending on the effect you want to have.
So before a person really gets into this, it's really something they should take classes in order to do. They can't just go out and start this on their own.
Yeah, it's a lot easier with classes because I started it on my own, just trying, and believe me, with a little education, it helps.
Okay.
Because you got to work with the right type of infusing a glass. You got to use all the same type of glass.
Okay.
You can't fuse that glass to this glass; that wouldn't work.
Okay, and you do this in your shop, and they can come in during the there's a series of how many classes?
There's classes Thursday evenings,
Okay.
Friday mornings, and Saturday mornings.
Oh, so there's a nice selection. They can whatever fits their schedule.
Yeah, and the deal is too, if they start on a Thursday, take a 5-week course. This is a 5-week course, these two products here. And it gives you 5 2-hour sessions. But if you come and start and say, hey, something happens, I can't be back for 3 weeks, no problem.
Okay.
You can come back anytime because we have a continually going class.
Oh, that makes it nice too for seniors who have other things going. They can
things pop up.
Spread it, sure. They can spread it out and still. Well, I think these would make lovely gifts. It'd be a nice something for somebody to have as a hobby and just have it, gift giving. And Is there anything that we've missed that?
Pretty much. That pretty much handles it. I mean, we have a lot of things available for seniors. We have, I mean, when you take the class, you don't have to buy, you just pay for the class. You don't have to buy any tools. So that way, when you're done, you find out you really don't like it, you're not invested in all this equipment.
Okay, so it's something they can explore as a hobby, and if it doesn't work out, it's no big investment.
Yeah, that way, you don't have to come in and buy a whole bunch of tools and get done and be stuck with it. All that.
Okay. Well, I think we've certainly, hopefully, piqued the interest of somebody who's interested in doing this, and I want to thank you so much for coming today. I think this has certainly been an interesting project, and I appreciate the talent and skill that it takes. I've seen glass work, and I've never really appreciated what creative effort goes into doing it. It's nice. So thank you again.
Well, thank you.
And Live and Learn will be right back.
What does Medicare cover? How can I afford to keep living in my home? When I need help with house and yard work, who can I turn to? Why am I so tired? Am I eating right? Should I exercise? Where can I go for answers to my questions about aging?
Aging Partners is the place to call when you have questions on aging. Our experts are here to help you with unbiased answers for you or your loved ones. Aging Partners, we're only a phone call away.
Welcome back to Live and Learn. I'm Harlan Johnson. I've known several people who were members of an organization that kind of intrigued me. Well, they seem to be a group that has a lot of fun, and they do a lot of interesting things. And I've asked questions about their organization, and I thought it would be interesting to have them come and tell you a little bit about the Corn Republic Parrot Head Club. Well, I have as my guests two of the members. I have Janet Anderberry and Jim Padavina. Welcome to the Live and Learn Show.
Well, thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
All right. Now, Jim, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about the history of the Parrot Club organization, the club.
The organization started in Atlanta. A fellow by the name of Scott Nickerson had an idea that after the parties and after the events where Buffett was at a concert, that they would put together some sort of organization. Well, he put an ad in a local flyer newspaper, a free ad, and just suggested that people meet, and when they were after a concert, they met, about 15 people did, and after about another 3 months, there were quite a few people who were interested in the organization, and so they actually formed an organization April 1st of 1989. So it's been better than 20 years now that the organization has been around, and it's grown from a few people to over 25,000 members now in 230 plus clubs.
Okay, now it basically then structured originally maybe a thought of a fan club, but it's many more things than that.
It is. What I like to describe it as is a three-legged stool, if you will, that you need all three legs to make it stand up. But one of them, in our particular case, is a little bit bigger, a little bit fatter than the rest of the legs, and that's the component where our social club. The other two legs would be the charitable events that we put on and raise money for charities. And then the third one is that most of our members are interested in music, trop rock music, and that music is the king of all that is Mr. Jimmy Buffett.
Okay. Now, you started out as a member of a club in Omaha.
Right. The Omaha Club is about 17 years old. And my wife and I were right away, got very active in that club. It was quite a commute, actually, as many times as we went up there. But they've been around for 17 years, and I was the membership director for a while, and I was president of the club for 2 years, of the Omaha Club.
And then you were involved with the international organization.
I was. I ran for the international presidency and was international president in 2008 and 2009.
Okay. You mentioned that the Omaha Club, how long they've been going, and you've got an anniversary here that your club has been going. What?
We started in 2008, so we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary, and we're looking forward to a big Parrot Head type celebration for that. We've already formed a committee and started making plans for later this year to celebrate
now
that.
You're president.
I'm currently president of the Lincoln chapter of
Okay.
the Corn Republic Parrot Heads.
Well, tell us now about some of the things that your club has done.
Okay, we have a variety of charitable things we've done, and some of them are recurring. A couple things that we've done for several years include delivering poinsettias at Christmas time. We coordinate with that through the Salvation Army. We are also involved with the library book sale, where we go and dress up in our t-shirts and leis and things and help with that. In 2012, we did a couple of new things. We participated in cleanup at the zoo, the Lincoln Children's Zoo, and we also spent a day working with Habitat for Humanity, drywalling an entire house.
Okay, now I know you were involved, and I've been involved for years with Cornhusker State, the Cornhusker State Games, and your members have volunteered with that. You've done some things with Animal Shelter.
Yes, we help out there as well, and we also collect items each month at our meetings. Things like for the animal shelter, we might be collecting kitty litter and dog food and things like that, and we also do that for other organizations in Lincoln.
The club locally meets basically then once a month?
That's correct. We have our formal meetings are once a month. We hold those at the garage. It's the third Thursday of every month. We also try to have what we call flockings at least once a month.
Okay, and now, tell us about a flocking.
A flocking is a social event.
It is.
And they can be a formal thing that we plan for months in advance, or it could be something like a mass text that goes out on a Friday afternoon saying, let's all meet at a local establishment and have some fun. So
I've run across, and I think, Jim, you were probably actually wearing this hat at one of the events that I run across, where you were having an event one evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we've also done some things with the Salt Dogs franchise here. We've worked at the ballpark when there was the Relay for Life. We've had a booth there and sold items that we had collected and then turned the money over to Relay for Life. We also have had for a few years in a row now an event called Slugger-Readaville, and that's usually in conjunction with the Salt Dogs when they have either a Jimmy Buffett look-alike come in, or a tropical band, or a band that is just a fun group, and they have it be their Island Night or Jimmy Buffett Night, whatever they call it, and we join in with them.
Okay. Membership in the club, ranges? How many?
We currently have 112 members. They come from all walks of life. We have bankers and doctors, and we have a graphic artist who helped design our club logo and some materials. We have a person that works as a travel agent who's been very helpful in organizing some events.
Age range goes what?
Anywhere from 25 to 70 years old. So age doesn't really matter too much in the club. We have a wide range, but a person doesn't have to be at least 21.
Okay.
And we are definitely multi-generational. We have quite a range. And a lot of people join, if they are a couple, they join as a couple, but we have lots of single people too. So we have, if you have a significant other, usually that person joins too, which is different maybe than some other kinds of clubs that people would belong to. That's usually done with your friend or with your spouse or significant other.
Okay, now you had a concert, Jimmy Buffett did in Omaha, which probably a little bit exploded your membership. Tell us about how they relate to the concerts, that sort of thing.
Want to do that one?
Sure. Actually, at the end of last year, we ended with 176 members, and a lot of those, like you say, joined so they could go with us to our concert.
So they could go to the concert get the good tickets. Yeah, we know.
We all sat together. We all had bright orange matching T-shirts, which Jimmy Buffett has noticed on a couple of occasions and called us out during our concert. During his concerts, he refers to us as the Orange People, so that's kind of our thing now.
Here we are in Big Red Country, and you're known as Orange People.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well, we were sitting all together, and then the Omaha Club had on, many of them had on a safety green shirt. We had on these bright orange shirts, so we looked like some sort of the Orange Tabernacle Choir or something for Mr. Buffett. And he enjoyed it. He pointed us out a couple times.
Now, I think it's called trop rock music. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. One of the neat things that we do, many of us do once a year, is to go to Key West for the annual convention. And at the annual convention, there are a number of performers who come down there who have picked up this genre, if you will, of the trop rock music. It's a combination of tropical and roll, and so it's this trop rock music. You can hear it sometimes in some of the national performers like Kenny Chesney or the Zac Brown Band. Some of those have kind of picked up on that style of music or combined it with theirs in a little bit different way. Buffett didn't get played on the radio very often, mostly because they couldn't categorize him. And now there's a whole category that basically he came up with.
Okay, so he's kind of the founder then of that whole type of music.
Yeah.
Well, now I've learned a lot about the organization through membership, and I know probably our viewers have had a chance to. How would they get hooked up here locally? Hey, this sounds like fun. Oh, how do we get hooked up?
Well, the easiest way would probably be to go to our website, www.cornrepublic.com, or if you just Google Corn Republic, you're going to find us. There's a lot of information out there. We have our monthly meetings at the garage on the third Thursday each month.
And the garage is
local tavern.
Tavern, okay.
At 48th and Highway 2, and we meet there at 6:30 on the third Thursday each month.
Okay, so people could hit up on the website there and find out some information. So, hey, I appreciate you coming. We've got some memorabilia here that I don't know if you want to talk about your pins, Jim.
Well, okay, the pins. Like a lot of clubs, we have a pin that we developed. And then a lot of other clubs have ones to trade, and so you would bring a few of your pins to the annual convention or to a concert, and if you spot somebody with a club pin, you might trade, like a lot of organizations do. Trade the Elks, the Rotary,
the Red Cross
has pins.
Been to national meetings there,
and we've copied that, and it's a good deal of fun. People enjoy that. And then, of course, the hat. A lot of people have decorated some sort of hat. I have a number of them with different themes, one for baseball, one for just kind of a cowboy hat and treated differently. But it's just stuff that's developed over the years.
Well, hey, Jim and Janet, thank you for coming and being on the Live and Learn show and talking about something that you do, which, as you mentioned, and it's a little contrast from what you do regularly in your business suit. But thank you for coming, being part of Live and Learn. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.